instead of reading a self-help book, read a fictional book. Instead of going to the conference, go to the beach. Instead of having that deep conversation with your wife tonight or maybe a friend, have a fun, playful conversation. Instead of doing the budget to the nth degree, set some money aside and say, hey, we've got $1,000 that we can spend this month on whatever we want. No constraints. And just bring and infuse a little bit of fun and enthusiasm and excitement. Good to see you this morning, Kipp. I hope all is going well on this fine Monday morning. You and I both know what makes a good Monday morning, and it's amazing, even in spite of what we know, how infrequently sometimes we do it. So, but my morning's actually getting off to a pretty good start, and the week's going, and I've got my to-do list and all that stuff already here, and yeah, it's been good. It's been a good morning, man.
Good. Well, it sounds like
How
it.
About you?
And yeah, it's been a great morning. I'm recovering from a long weekend. I took the family to literally a 2-day road trip to Bryce Canyon and then
nice.
North Rim of the Grand Canyon. That's a lot of driving in a 2-day window. But it was a little bit of a mad scramble. I have an older brother that's moving out of town, out of state. And so a bunch of us siblings got together and did a last little hoorah with him, and before he moves across the nation.
Nice. Well, my family and I, my kids in particular, and I were talking about you guys over the weekend, and we're just wondering the best way to invite ourselves to the lake this summer would be. So, which by the way was not my idea, but the kids are like, hey, we want to go back to the lake. I'm like, all right, let me talk with Kipp and figure out what we can make work.
That's funny. Yeah. They're like, hey,
they had a
Dad,
good time last year.
Work some angles for us.
Well, I told them, I said, hey guys, what do you want to do this summer? Like, I want to take you guys on a trip. You know, we can go down to the beach in California. We can get up to the mountains and get a cabin and find a cool place. And they're like, we want to go to Kipp's house in the lake. I'm like, that's easy. 2 hours north and we're in. So
I love
anyways,
it. Yeah,
we'll make a good time last year. Yeah.
I love it.
Well, should we get to some questions today?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to field some questions from the Facebook group. If you haven't joined us there, that's facebook.com/group/Order of Man. Jose and Jose, depending on whether you're Portuguese or Hispanic.
I was always confused about Jose Aldo because I always assumed it was Jose, but is he Brazilian?
Yes, he's Brazilian. That's why Portuguese. It's Jose. Yeah, it's Portuguese.
Okay,
yeah, so I don't know if Suniga is Portuguese or not, right? So, but regardless, here's this question. How to deal and fight toxic leadership in your job. Oh, from Spain. So we're going with Jose. Sorry, I should have read that last sentence.
All right. So how to deal with toxic leadership in your job?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of new angles because this is a question that we get quite often. And one angle that I think we often overlook is that it always appears to be toxic because we might be the brunt of their frustration or contention or their own issues that they're working through. And it may actually not have anything to do with you at all. It may just be you're the outlet for the frustrations and contentions that are happening. Well, so I want to talk about it in a couple of different contexts. First, the more empathetic one, which is try to put yourself in his shoes first. Is this a person who's high stressed, under the gun, dealing with maybe departments or that aren't functioning correctly, that he has no control over? Maybe it's a budgeting issue where he doesn't actually have the resources he needs. Maybe his boss is the jerk and it has nothing to do with him. There's a lot of things that could be happening behind the scenes that you're just not privy to. So the first thing I would do is I would really try to expand and broaden out my perspective and wonder, is he really toxic or is there something else at play here? And is there anything that I can personally do to help him get problems solved? A lot of the times people can actually be the problem. And if you can be the solution to the problem, not based on what you think the solution is, but based on what he needs, then it's going to be a little bit better, I think, generally. And that just requires a conversation. So if you're my top line leader, Kipp, it might be me coming to you and saying, hey, Kipp, we've worked together for a long time and I really enjoy being here. I like the people that I work with. I do feel a little bit of stress at times because of X, Y, and Z. And it got me thinking over the weekend, if you feel the same way, and if you do feel the same way, I would like to know what I can do in my department or myself or with my team to help you solve the problems that you think are most pressing right now. Those conversations to me are so powerful. And then we can get into the, oh yeah, he's definitely toxic, because that does exist. I'm not saying it doesn't. But I think there's a better angle, at least initially, than just being passive, buying into the idea that he's toxic, doing the workplace gossip, being part of that negative culture, and then get into the other problems that might exist. What do you think of that?
I totally agree. In fact, one of the core principles, and we talked about this last week actually, for leaders is to love those you lead. And to love someone that you lead, it really kind of implies that you see and you believe in them as an individual, that they want to do great work, that they want to contribute in meaningful ways, that they're not intentionally being a bad employee. Well, leadership is a decision in a lot of cases. And so, Jose, as a leader, whether this is your direct leader or a direct report to you, if you want to show up as a leader, what do you need to do? Love those you lead, even lead up the chain of command. Have some empathy, to your point. Ask more questions, understand the issue. But whenever we default to people are the problem, whether we're in a position of authority or we're looking up the chain of command, if you default to people are the problem, then what you're not going to do, Jose, is self-evaluate. You're not going to consider your role in it. You're going to immediately start allocating blame that the problem obviously is everywhere but with you, and it's your leader's fault. And the unfortunate part about that is, even if it's true, is you're not self-evaluating your role in it. And you're not going to learn and grow as a person if you're not looking in your role in regards to what you can do to contribute to the solution.
Well, and there might even be situations, depending on the relationship you have with your boss in this case, where you could actually go to a person. For example, well, in our context, I wouldn't say I'm your boss, but in the context of what we're doing here,
yeah.
I have that supervisory role, right?
Yeah.
So, but we also have a good enough friendship where you could come to me and say, hey, Ryan, I know this is what we're working on. I know this is important to you, but can I share something with you? And I would say yes, because of the relationship we have. And you might say, man, you seem to be really agitated over the past couple of weeks, or you seem emotionally reactive in a way that I haven't seen you act in a while, or hey, you handled that situation in a way that doesn't seem like the well-adjusted Ryan would do it. And I've seen both. You could actually have that conversation with me from a place of love, where you actually care about me. And I might say, oh man, I'm having an issue with one of my kids, or somebody close to me just passed away, or maybe I just feel a lot of pressure from what's going on, or there's a financial hardship. And it gives me an opportunity to explain, but also for me as the leader in this case, to be checked and realize, oh, I didn't realize that my personal life was spilling over. I didn't realize I was treating people poorly, or whatever the situation may be. But I also think, okay, so that's the empathetic side, right? And I think it's important we address that. Let's assume that you've done a lot of that work and you still have a toxic employer. Oh, go ahead. Did you want to say something before I get to that?
Well, I was going to ask you, I don't know, sometimes when I hear the word toxic and I hear gaslighting and I hear all these tools of labels that we've all inherited to place quick judgments on people without critically thinking. So I want to challenge, or not challenge, but like ask you, what would be your definition of a toxic leader? Because sometimes it's like, oh, I don't have a great leader. They're toxic. Oh, they're gaslighting. And we just use these as tools, you know what I mean, to feel right and make someone wrong. And so maybe we level set first on what would you say a toxic leader is?
Yeah, well, toxic is subjective. I tend to be more of an A-type personality, where I'm blunt and I'm forthright. I don't really want to small talk. I don't want to talk about the weather. I want to get into deep subjects. I want to get to the brass tacks. Like, I want to get after it. Yeah. And there might be other people who are maybe more analytical or more thoughtful who would look at my personality and assume, well, Ryan's an asshole. Not objectively, subjectively maybe, but if you really understand what makes a person tick, to your point, they might not be toxic. It may just be something that you need to adjust to because you have to have a relationship with them in a work setting. But I think if we're trying to look at it as objectively as possible, toxicity would be mistreating people, taking advantage of the individuals, being verbally or emotionally abusive.
Probably dishonest. So their character.
Manipulation.
Yeah, kind of what we're talking about here is their characters in question.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It would be, that's a good way to sum it up. It's character deficiencies.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
You know, the other things, like, he's toxic because we don't have the budget. Well, that's not toxic, but the way he communicates, we don't have the budget might be.
Yeah.
So it's not toxic to say we don't have the budget. You might just say, hey, this is not a company I want to work with because they don't have the budget to do the things that are aligned with what I want to do. But that's not toxicity. That's just a misalignment in where you're working, I think.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say it that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. I like that distinction.
So let's say you do have a toxic, according to what we just said, a toxic work environment or a toxic boss. I did a Friday Field Notes last week, and I titled it "Options Equal Freedom." You know, we always hear discipline equals freedom, and I believe there's a lot of truth to that. And I had a couple people challenge me on some semantics on it, but I thought they were good challenges where they said, well, discipline does create options. That's legitimate.
That's how you get to options, maybe, is through discipline. Yeah.
For sure. But I chose to focus on options because I think when a person has options, they aren't obligated to be in a situation that they don't want to be in.
Yeah. So, and you could double down on discipline and not be creating options for yourself, and you still don't have the freedom, right?
Well, somebody else said, hey, everybody's disciplined. It's just a matter of what you're disciplined towards.
Exactly. Yep.
If you're an addict, for example, I guarantee you're disciplined enough to go find how you get your next fix.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
There's a lot of effort going on there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of what you're disciplined towards, which I thought was a pretty thoughtful comment. But the best way to have options are this. I've written down a few here. Number one is that you're skilled. If I'm an employee and I'm skilled and I'm proficient in the work that I'm doing and I generate revenue and I make the work better and I'm an asset to the company, do you think I have less or more leniency with the way I operate within the work culture? Obviously more.
Yeah.
It's funny when you hear kids who quit baseball or football and they say, oh, well, my coach was a jerk. He never played me. Yes, sure, that might happen, but coaches want to win games. So the real reason he probably didn't play you and you don't like him is because you weren't as good as you thought you were.
Totally.
That is far more likely than what other scenario you've conjured up in your mind.
Some grudge he has against you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So being skilled and proficient makes you a more valuable person. And if you're a more valuable person, he's probably going to take it easier on you because he doesn't want to run the risk of losing you. Because if you're gone, he's hosed. Yeah. So if there's opportunities to develop skill sets, to get some credentialing, to pick up a new designation or a degree or go to a course on your own time, to learn the new hardware, the new software that just came in, and you can do that on your own time and your own dime, man, you are going to be light years ahead of anybody else who's not doing that. And by the way, I say your own time and your own dime. If the company offers it, sure, take advantage of it. But even if they don't, still do it because it's not wasted. You will have that training for other opportunities that come down the road with future employment. Number two is that you are well networked, meaning that you're a connector, you have great relationships, you have good relationships with your clients, you have relationships with complementary organizations that yours might work with, even competing organizations. You like those people, you know them well, because if it gets too toxic, it's like I can just jump ship and go over there. If I could not do Order of Man today, I'd have another job lined up this afternoon. Now, it might not be ideal. I might take a pay cut. It may not be what I want to do in for the rest of my life, but I could have that today.
Totally.
That option is powerful for me. And then the other thing that I wrote down here is that you want to be well liked. You want to be a liked individual. And this alludes to learning the game of office politics. I cannot tell you how many times I hear people say, well, this is stupid.
I'm not going to play that game.
Office politics.
Yeah.
You can say that, and you can be upset, and you can isolate, and you can be a jerk about it, and you can undermine it, and you can do all those things. It's not going away. So instead, learn to be a politician. Shake hands and kiss babies, as they say. It doesn't undermine who you are. You're not going against your own integrity. It just means I'm learning how to play the game. Now, I'm not going to be a suck up or a brown nose necessarily, but I'm going to learn who the players are. I'm going to help the right people. I'm going to advocate for myself. I'm going to congratulate other people. I'm going to praise other people because it's part of the game. And when you're well liked, it's less likely that people will take out their issues on you, and they'll just be more pleasant around you.
Totally. I bring up this study often, and this is probably a study about 10 years ago, and it was around the driving factors that affected malpractice lawsuits for physicians. Number one, deterrent, likability.
Yeah, it's the bedside manner.
Yeah, it's not the quality of work. It's whether they liked you or not. And we all know this to be true. When you like people and they mess up, you give them grace. You go, you know what, Ryan's just, he's trying, right? Because we don't question their character when you have an established relationship. But when you don't have a relationship with someone, you don't know their character. And so you might assume worst case intent. So that's all that this is the importance of relationships. The only thing I'd add, Ryan, and let me know if you agree or not, is win where you are too, right? Don't go covert, I'm going to get these skills and network and then suck at your job, right?
Yeah.
Like Jose still win where you are. I had this conversation with the director, it was probably about 2 years ago, and he was getting some coaching about feeling micromanaged from his leader. And he's like, oh man, these particular things should be delegated to me. And my response to him was, well, are you winning right now where you are? And he wasn't. I'm like, dude, you're in zero position to say, give me more authority over my job when you can't even win with what has been given to you. So whatever you do, Jose, make sure you're winning. You're killing it. And then do all these other things. And trust me, you'll have more influence and or you'll have some empathy and you'll understand the bigger picture of things and you'll end up addressing this. Or worst case scenario, right? It doesn't work for me. Now I'm set up. I have those options, right, to go somewhere else.
Exactly.
All good. Yeah.
Everything's good. There's nothing about what we shared that has any negative side effect.
No, if anything, upswing, you'll grow, you'll develop, you'll be better off for the next job.
Yep.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'd say on this, and I think we're maybe beating a dead horse, is just don't get bitter about it, because the minute you start getting bitter and taking things personally, it shows up in a big way. And then he's going to be more toxic to you. I promise you.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Good point. Mr. Bob Ross, are either of you currently writing a book? If so, what are the details? If not, why not? And what are you considering for your next book? Way to just pigeonhole the conversation.
Yeah, it's like, this is what I want you to say. Answer it this way.
And if you don't, answer it anyway.
I am not currently writing a book. I have a few ideas, and I want to do it a little differently than the first two, Sovereignty and the Masculinity Manifesto. I have some ideas, and I'm going to speak about them very broadly. I'm keeping it close to my chest a little bit.
The ideas?
The ideas.
Okay.
I really want to talk about men's leadership specifically, but what we have authority over. So it might be a little bit controversial, because in modern times, it's almost frowned on if you feel like or behave as if you have authority over certain things. But the reality is that we do. We have authority over our families, for example. We have authority over our body. We have authority over our household, authority over our possessions. And I want to talk about how to protect those things, how to lead righteously in those moments. So that's about as deep as I want to get right now, because I've got some ideas that I'm fleshing out, but that'll be in the next year or two.
Got it. That's cool. I mean, we've even had this conversation, I think like a year ago. I may have mentioned to you like, oh, Ryan, I'm thinking about writing something, and I haven't done anything. I probably should just say I'm not, so then that way I'm not held accountable to anything. So I have ideas, but that's all that they are right now. I'm not sure if I'm committed to it.
Yeah. Well, if you're saying I'm not sure I'm committed to it, then you're not committed to it.
Yeah. Good point. I'm not committed to it. Not yet, anyway.
And what I would say to that is make sure you're committed, because it may not seem, let me say it this way. It's a lot easier than it looks. Excuse me, it's a lot harder than it looks. It looks easier than it actually is. It is time consuming. It is challenging. At least it was for me. This is my experience. And I don't really wish that process on my worst enemy. But we do it not because I want to be an author. I learned this from Ryan Holiday, I think. Not because you want to be an author, but because what you have to say will serve people in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
And so it's almost a sense of obligation and duty and responsibility than desire and vanity.
Yeah. Well, and I love that, because then it's no longer about all the things that will block you from writing, right? And the things blocking you from writing would be, well, what if I do this thing and it's a failure? Well, that was never the intent anyway, right? Like if I believe in the message, then so be it. The only area that I feel like it would be, it's just I've created so much content over the last year and a half that I almost feel like, I don't know, maybe that I'm closer than I'd realize once I just put everything together. But well, I don't know, maybe that's wishful thinking.
It's not wishful thinking. It's just a bit of a misconception. People think that having more information to talk about means that they have a greater chance of writing a successful book.
Yeah.
But what I found, and by everything that I've read from very successful authors and authors I've talked with, is it's not the amount of information. Because what most people will do is they'll say, okay, I have this, I have 7 years of lessons and speeches and reports and presentations that I can compile. Everybody has that. You've been alive for 40 plus years, Kipp. Of course, you got 40 years of experience under your belt. That's not the problem. The problem is, how do you take out this little piece of that, this one little section of that, and go as deep as you possibly can on that one little concept or that one little idea? That's
the
very
articulation
difficult to do.
of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I could talk about how to have systems in place. What systems? Like I could talk about 30 different systems and write 30 chapters, but not really get deep in anything, and it didn't serve anybody any better off than just going to pull up something off YouTube.
Yeah.
You got to pull out one sliver and then dive deep into that realm.
Love it. All right, Chris Andrione, what's one thing you do, each of you, to jumpstart your motivation?
I just do it. I just pick something and do it. I'm not trying to be dismissive of the question.
Yeah.
But I don't need motivation to get me going. I mean, I like to be motivated. Motivation certainly helps me if I hear from somebody or listen to a song in particular or a presentation or read a book and then it inspires me in some way, or watch a movie. But that's not really, I don't really need that. Like I said I was going to do it. Here's my to-do list. Here's the things I need to get done. And here's the end result when I do it. So I just do it. Now there's two ways to look at this that I think that I've identified. And what works for me, there's one in particular that works for me when I'm feeling maybe demotivated. Maybe I'm being lazy or procrastinating, or I had a long weekend, or I'm getting back from vacation. Like, how do I get motivated to get going again? write out everything that needs to get done. And you could either do one of two things. The first thing is you can just say, what is the priority right now? So I've got 20 things I need to do today. I just got back from vacation. I'm not really wanting to get back into it. I got 20 things. What's the most pressing thing on the list? And then just do it. Motivation be damned. Just do it. So that's one. That doesn't work for me as well as the second strategy. The second strategy is pick the easiest thing to do. So you have 20 things that you've got to get done. What's the thing that's just going to take you a few minutes? Maybe it's send an email. Maybe it's make a phone call. Maybe it's just writing out your to-do list. Like, just what's going to be the easiest thing that you can do, and then do that. And then the next thing you do is, okay, what's the next easiest thing? The next easiest thing. Because for me, just being able to check something off the list is a little bit of a motivation for me. I'm like, oh, cool, I was productive today. And then you pick another thing. Oh, cool, I got that done. And then you look at your list, and out of 20 things, maybe you didn't get the priority done, but you got 16 things. And now you're motivated and the wheels are turning and you built up some consistency and some momentum. And now you can get to that thing that really needs to be done because you have the energy levels to do it.
I like it. It's interesting, Ryan. Last week, for the last couple of weeks, I've been really diving into motivational theory. And it's really interesting because, and not to sound like completely disruptive to a lot of things, but I think I've understood this wrong for a long time, especially when we've always had a tendency in the manosphere, right, to be like, motivation is this fleeting thing, act out of discipline, you don't need it, right, kind of thing. And the more I've done research into this, the more I realize that you doing it, kind of what you just said is like, well, I just do it because that's what I need to do, is a form of motivation, but the motivation could be that the importance of integrity is the motivation. The importance of who you are as a man is the motivation. And it's not this extrinsic motivator, it's this intrinsic motivator of what it means about you as an individual if you don't do it. And so it's interesting, like, and I don't mean to play with words a little bit too much here because we'll lose the objective of the question, but a lot of things motivate people. And sometimes it is identity of self that might do it. Other cases, it might be extrinsic things, and other things are internal. And just to kind of give Chris some examples here, 3 primary motivational theories. Here they are: self-determination theory, goal setting theory, and expectancy theory. Self-determination theory, primary motivator across all people is agency and freedom in what they're doing. Competence, or the feeling of mastery. And then number 3, a sense of belonging, meaning, and connection. Those are your top 3 motivators. After that, it's goal setting, it's progression, and then it's reward systems, right, around your performance. So those are all things to kind of think about. But for me, specifically to your question, jumpstart motivation, for me, it's sometimes just acting, because I can't think my way into getting motivated most of the time. Like if I'm kind of in a slump, if I'm in a slump, I can't sit there and go, oh, okay, what does this say about me as a person if I don't? Like, it won't work. I just have to pick something and start going. And even if it's small, it's like, I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to drive to the gym and just start working out. And by the time I'm done, or I'm in the workout for 10 minutes, I'm all there. I'm good to go. Or if I don't want to clean the garage, or I don't want to do something, I just start doing it. And I know that I'm going to feel great about doing it. So I just move to action and try not to think. And one trigger that I've used in the past is, if I'm excusing it, that's when I know I need to act. So if the thought enters my mind, I should go do X. And if it's followed up with a reason why I shouldn't, now I'm making excuses. And so if I do that, I go, no, that's the sign. I just got to go. And then I just go.
I think it's powerful. Have you ever talked with anybody who's very successful, or maybe they're very healthy, and you ask them a question about, like, how'd you do it? And they have a hard time giving you an answer.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know. I just want to do things that I'm successful, or I don't know. I don't know what I eat. I just eat good and work out. and you're like trying to find answers to figure out how to do it, to me, that's an indicator that this individual has successful principles so internalized and ingrained into their identity that they're no longer looking at it as to-dos or tasks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's who they are. It's not the thing they're trying to become.
Exactly. Yeah. Or let me make this 20-point checklist of how to prep food and how to prepare it right, and then what workout. It's just so much part of their DNA that it's like, that's a dumb question. Like, why you just be healthy, you just be successful.
Yeah.
And it's like people like that, I don't think are trying to be dismissive. They just have a hard time. The point that I'm making here is that it's identity. So I've even done this as negative identity, where if I'm having a hard time getting something done, in my mind, whether it's true or not is irrelevant, and whether you think I'm judging other people or myself is irrelevant too, is I will literally say to myself, this is not what a successful person would do. Or if I'm behaving poorly, I'll say, this is what a lazy person would do. This is what a weak man would do right now. And that sometimes is enough for me to say, nope, because I'm not that, and make a switch to my behaviors.
Yeah. I mean, and this is where it's tough. I mean, I don't mean to demonize Jocko, and I kind of did on our last Friday call a little bit. It's hard to connect sometimes, right? And I'll use that as an example, right? It's like, it's hard to be someone that's maybe unmotivated and say, hey, Jocko, I need some coaching. And he's like, just be disciplined. And it's like, well, just that doesn't help me, right? That doesn't help me make the step, right? And so I think sometimes we struggle with what that looks like for us intentionally. But I think that's where getting connected to the bigger picture of who you are being as a person, and to your point, mindset, right? Mindset, beliefs, and attitudes drive action and behavior. And sometimes we want to force action and behavior without the alignment of the right mindset and attitude. And it just doesn't work that way. And I think, but there's danger in that, right? Because in the same breath, I'd be fearful that everyone here that heard that statement is going to go home, sit on their couch, and think for 12 hours on how to take action. When in reality, they just need to start acting too, right? And so I don't know. It's tougher than just take action, and it's a lot more than just sitting about it and changing your mindset, because sometimes action is what's required to help your mindset change.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree with you, but also I would say that there's some people who are so proficient at taking action that they do it at the expense of thoughtfulness. I tend to lean more towards that. And so what ends up happening is I make dumb mistakes. I might pay more for something than I need to because it's a tuition payment, as my friend Pete Roberts might say, or Dave Ramsey would call it a stupid tax. Because you're not thoughtful about it.
That's funny.
So there's a lot of things. I guess I'll say it this way. It's just dependent on who you are. Yeah. If you're somebody who thinks and contemplates and you never take action, then you need somebody like Jocko to say, just do it already.
Yeah, just go.
And that's why I think when you are bringing self-help in, I wrote a couple of duos down here that I think is pretty interesting. So you have a guy like Jocko who's like, yeah, you just do it. You're just disciplined. Just get after it. He pairs really well with a guy like Jordan Peterson. And Jordan Peterson's sitting around like on his therapy couch pontificating the cosmos. And it's like, well, what do you do? And he's like, I don't know. You just think about it more. No. You have to have both personalities. Another duo that comes to mind is somebody like Andrew Huberman. Very thoughtful, very intelligent, clearly knows what he's talking about, can communicate it fairly well, although it is dry at times, coupled with somebody like Cam Hanes, who's running marathons every day and hunting in the and that's a good duo.
Yeah.
And so you need both sides of it, and you might need more based on your own personality and your own proclivities to moving towards certain behaviors.
Yeah, that's a great example. Or like Luke Scholes. There have been several discussions with Jordan Peterson and John Vervaek on what they call the meaning crisis, wondering if either of you have listened to or dove into the work of these gentlemen on this particular topic, and or your willingness to shoot from the hip and your thoughts around the meaning crisis. If so, where does it stem from and how to tackle it? As from what I drew from these conversations, it's a connection to meaning is what allows us to create a vision, a connection that it's worth fighting for, that comes from something greater, a connection to an internal belief we are capable of playing a part in bringing it about. In other words, everything needed to have success in a battle plan.
Yeah, I was taking some notes as you were saying that because I want to make sure I address. I don't really know the context of the meaning crisis, so I don't want to speak of it that way. But I'm always willing to shoot from the hip, of course. Whether I'm right or wrong, I'm always willing to do that. I'm just taking a couple notes. Okay, so if I had to assume or guess, just based on what I have read and heard from Jordan Peterson, it's that we have a lack of meaning and purpose, not only within ourselves, but culturally, we're missing a lot of meaning and purpose. And I think when we are missing that in our culture, we end up making decisions that feel good in the temporary, in the micro, but in the macro end up doing more harm than good. And so I think part of the reason that is, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to add the definition. I pulled it up here if you wanted me to read it really quick.
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
So the meaning crisis refers to a cultural and psychological condition in which individuals and society struggle to find purpose, direction, or a shared sense of meaning in life. It's a term used to describe the widespread sense of disconnection that many people experience in modern times, especially in the Western world.
Okay, so yeah, I think I was on the right track with that.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'll tell you why I think it's the case. I haven't done extensive research or study or heard what Jordan Peterson necessarily has to say about it. But I will say that if we have this crisis with meaning, and I think that's probably true, then what have we been doing instead? And what we have been doing instead is pursuing pleasure and happiness. That is what we've been doing as a society. We pursue things that make us happy and give us pleasure versus something that will actually bring meaning into our life. I mean, you can see it in the dating space. How many people are more worried and interested in getting laid than they are building a long-term committed relationship with somebody? Pleasure, happiness versus purpose, fulfillment, and joy is the term I would use. But I think the reason that we do that is because it appeals to our vanity, the things that we want, and it appeals to our impatience. We want all the results without any of the effort. We want it now. We want to look good. We want to have all the things, and we just want to be happy. I mean, think about it, even in the LGBTQ realm. Like, do what makes you happy. Find yourself. Like, live the way that you want to live. The hell with whatever it has to do negatively on culture and society. Just be happy, find your joy. And if people don't like it, well, that's their problem. You don't need to contribute to the collective good. That's not your responsibility. The most important thing is that you're happy. And then you see it, for example, let's continue it with the LGBTQ stuff. Then you see LGBTQ pastors. And they're not teaching the gospel. They're teaching a version of the gospel that makes people happy and brings them pleasure. They'll even manipulate and twist and contort the words of the Bible to mean something that clearly it doesn't mean. And we see countless cases of this where people will change and adjust and tweak and manipulate and coerce and lie and steal if it means that they get to be happy, even if just for a moment. It also happens in the feminist movement. Oh, women, you don't need to be at home raising righteous children. You don't need to turn that house into a beautiful, loving sanctuary for growth for your husband and your children. You should be out in the workforce, taking power, bringing it to the man, taking control, making your own money so you don't have to rely on anybody else. That's not fulfillment. That's temporary joy and vanity at the expense of what actually could have created lasting fulfillment for you. So we could go on and on about examples in society of why that is.
Totally. Well, and reduction of religion, or let me just say the shift of religion from a divine being to a creator to individualism is their new religion. And it's about me and who I am and living temporarily and not looking at greater things, right? And I think the battle against it is spiritual practices, serving community, serving other individuals, something greater than oneself, something greater than the individual, and the pursuit of like honor, truth, virtue, like these foundational principles. And everything I just heard you share, none of those are rooted in kind of honor and truth and virtue. They're rooted in what? Temporary excitement, living today, how I look. They're all just individualism. It's the new religion is really what it is.
Individuals, yeah. Well, and there's another thing, trying to, again, not to beat a dead horse here, that we have to be aware of where do these threats come from or why is it exacerbated? 4 primary places. Number 1, the government. Number 2, entertainment industry. Number 3, academia. And number 4 is the medical community. That's where this is all being filtered through. Government, clearly, bread and circuses, right? Distract, get us thinking about things that are important so we can maintain and conserve and consolidate power. The entertainment industry, I mean, we used to have just this like literary or musical compositions that were like beautiful masterpieces that cause you to reflect. Even art. Like look at a modern art museum and tell me that actually lets you reflect and think and consider and ponder your existence in this planet, or even illustrate lessons, violent lessons, joyful lessons, fulfilling lessons throughout history. Like you don't find that in modern art. Even movies. There used to be beautiful movies that had an actual message and a moral of the story, and now let's just blow shit up and cause a scene and make it loud and obnoxious. And don't get me wrong, I like some of that stuff. But if it replaces the thoughtfulness, that's a problem. Academia, same way. You have people spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for liberal arts degrees that they're never going to go out and recoup in practicality and actually add value to the world. And then the medical community, I mean, that's easy. All we have to do is keep you sick just enough where you'll buy the medicine, but not too sick where you'll die.
Yeah.
Because if you die, we can't keep selling you the medicine. But if we get you sick and we tell you wrong things about how to be healthy and how to live a healthy life and keep your body moving and eat the right fuel, then we're able to give you a pill that gives you a miserable existence. So it's rough, man.
And all made possible by me relinquishing that power to those organizations to tell me what to do, because I don't want to think for myself.
Right. That, and we're just lazy.
Yeah.
We're just lazy people. We just want to just entertain me
Easiest
and
path.
put a smile on my face.
Yeah.
Now.
It's wild.
I don't want to wait for it.
Yeah. All right. Peyton Mathis. Once you start, this is a good question, actually. I like this. Once you start to get burned out of motivation for improving yourself, whether physically or mentally, what and how do you gain back that motivation or get back into the physical improvement? So it's like you're on the path, you're humming, and just you get burnt out and you just fall off the wagon, kind of.
So I heard this term over the weekend, and it was, what was the term? Vulnerability hangover. Where an individual, maybe they have a therapy session or they disclose a lot of information to a friend or somebody, and it's good. You need some of that release, and you need to do that in right environments to the degree that's appropriate. But then afterwards, you're just exhausted. Yeah. It's like you put this all out there, it conjured up thoughts, and your wheels were turning, and maybe that triggered some emotions. And so
like when you have in-depth conversations with people, it's like super exhausting afterwards.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
So I heard that term, and it got me thinking when he asked this question that we also have something that I would say is a self-help hangover. Where you've read every book, you've listened to every podcast, you've been to every conference, you've read every email, you've signed up for every program, and you're just exhausted. you're tired. You probably feel, this is how I felt, because I've experienced this. When you consume too much self-help, you feel inadequate. It actually becomes demoralizing.
Because you're not there. You're like in the gap. You're seeing all the things that you should be at, but you're not there. So it's just constant focus of where you're not.
People never talk about that in the danger of self-help. They only say, hey, read this book. It's cool. You'll learn how to do a daily routine. Do this thing. It's cool. You learn how to be a better communicator. They're great. They're great things. But if you do too much, you're going to start to see, well, I don't do a morning routine. I don't communicate well. I'm not making $100,000 a year. I'm not in a good relationship. I'm not having sex. I don't have friends. I don't have a hobby. And now you just feel horrible about yourself, which might be kind of the point of the self-help industry in some ways, which is weird to say because I'm part of it.
Yeah.
So I say that because you need to detox from it a little bit, and you need to bring fun into your life. That's even hard for you. You sense my difficulty even saying that because I'm not that kind of person. But you should, instead of reading a self-help book, read a fictional book. Instead of going to the conference, go to the beach. Instead of having that deep conversation with your wife tonight or maybe a friend, have a fun, playful conversation. Instead of doing the budget to the nth degree, set some money aside and say, hey, we've got $1,000 that we can spend this month on whatever we want. No constraints. And just bring and infuse a little bit of fun and enthusiasm and excitement. Maybe there's something new that you want to do. Ask your kids, hey, what do you guys want to do? Like, it's your weekend. What do you guys want to do? Let's make it happen. And just have fun. Stop taking... Look, as a serious person myself, I am never at the risk of having too much fun where I won't always come back to being more serious. That's not a thing for me.
Yeah.
So some people worry about, oh, what if I have too much fun and then you won't. If you're a serious person, it would almost be impossible for you to do that. But you do in a way, which sounds a bit ironic, have to force yourself to have some fun. And you can do that for a little while and infuse some of that fun, and then you can go back to your self-help and that's fine. It will still be there, I promise.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I mean, both of us read this book, Gap in the Gain, and the kind of the premise of that book is like operate and stay present to the gain, and stop. Oh, once I accomplish these goals, once I do this, then it's like all some future state of fulfillment. When in reality, I think there's a lot that we can be today. We can have, and I really do believe this, you can have an amazing day today. But far too often we're operating that it's someday. And today I'll grind. Today I'll be miserable for the sake of tomorrow. When in reality, we could be present, grateful, and look at the growth that we're having and be fulfilled today. And maybe that's part of this focus here is the importance of presence, of not where you want to be, but where you are.
Yeah. It's funny, Kip. We're on the back of our Men's Forge event that we did several weeks ago. And it was a great event. We got a lot more rain than I thought we would, so we had to change some of the activities. And we had some rain one morning where we couldn't get out, and I think it was the ropes course or something. Oh, no, it was, what were we going to do? It was human foosball is what we were going to do. and we couldn't do it, so we had to bring everything indoors. And as you know, because you've done enough events with us, we always do an after-action review after events. So we get feedback from the guys. What do they like least? What do they like most? And just try to make next year's event even that much better. So instead of doing the outdoor activity, we decided to bring it indoors, and we had, on the fly, did a cornhole tournament and a pickleball tournament in this big meeting hall they had. And as we were going through the after-action reviews, one of the questions is, what do you like the most? And that was, I think it was either number 1 or number 2. And I thought to myself, at first, I'm like, what the hell? I bring in all these speakers. We've got these amazing activities. We've got these lessons. We've got these resources. And you guys like pickleball and cornhole?
Yeah.
But it got me thinking, this is what we're talking about. We just want to have a little bit of fun. We want to be able to connect with people. We want to find some happiness and joy in our lives. And it doesn't always need to be so serious. It's pretty telling.
And I don't know why this resonates with me, but sometimes the fun thing is the thing that got forced upon you that you pivoted to because you had no other choice. I don't know why, but there's an element of fun in it, right? Horrible weather outside. We're just going to do this instead. There's a sense of fun and excitement to those kind of things that are unplanned, that are part of just going along with the circumstances and the hardships that you're placed with. This is why, if we look back at our memory as children, some of the most memorable things were not fun at the time. They were the miserable things. It was the poor Christmas when no one had a gift. It was the
rainy
hardships.
Camp trip.
Yeah, it was the miserable camp trip. Why? Because there's excitement in it. There's a sense of unreasonableness with it that just brings you alive.
You know what I think it is, actually? I think you're right, but I think it's just one crucial little element. At least it is for me.
Yeah.
No expectations.
Yeah, I like that.
Because think about it. Like
it's a clean slate. I didn't know it was coming.
That's it. You didn't know. Like, here's an example. Let's say you're going to go to a movie. Like, I went to a movie last night, and it was Thunderbolts. It's the new Marvel movie. It's actually pretty good. But if I was really excited about it, like really, and I wasn't, but if I was really, really excited to see that movie, would it have met my expectation or let me down? It probably would have let me down. Like, how many movies have we been to where we're like, oh man, I thought it was going to be so much better, because you had an expectation of what it should have been.
Yeah.
But let's say I got to the movie theater and they said, oh, I'm sorry, we're sold out for that show, but I have a ticket for this show instead. And I'd never seen a preview for it. Don't know what it's about.
Never read the book. Yeah.
No. And I show up and I'm like, you know what? That was actually pretty good. It was pretty interesting. Or you see this in the dating space. You have these high expectations of like, this has got to be my future wife, and this has to be the one, or I got to get laid, or whatever expectation you have for the date, and you're like, and you feel so deflated, rather than just showing up and having fun and not having an expectation and just enjoying the moment. So I think it's the expectations that we place on ourselves and our environment that creates disappointment.
Yeah.
Now, you should have standards for yourself. But outside of that, I'm trying to let go of expectations of myself and others. I'm going to perform to the standard, and I'm going to let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, and here's the key thing, and you just said it. Most of the expectations that disrupt us, they're the expectations that we have on others, which are outside of your control anyway. But yet we have this opinion of the way it should look like, right? And when it's not met, then we have an upset. Yeah.
Well, but even the expectations of yourself. But the problem with having expectations of yourself is that there's so many variables that are beyond your control. Yeah. So you might say, you know what? I'm going to lose 40 pounds this month, and I'm going to start training for a body physique bodybuilding competition. And you're doing really well, and you're working hard, and you are ready to accomplish your goal. And then you're driving down the road and somebody T-bones you, and you end up hurting yourself, breaking a leg, maybe being paralyzed. Yeah. I mean, there's things that happen. And now all of your identity was wrapped up on the expectation that you were going to compete and perform and win. And now you can't. Yeah. And so you're deflated, when really the idea was, hey, that's what I'm working towards, but since I know that's where I'm going, let me reverse engineer, and now I'm just going to perform to the standard, and that's the win. So me eating correctly in order to compete is the win when I'm tempted to gorge on anything and everything. Or me going to the gym when I don't feel like it, that's the win. Those are the standards versus the expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are all our questions from Facebook.
Cool. I've got a couple others here. I think we have time for a couple more. So this one came from Instagram. And I'll pull out a couple just for the sake of time. Number one is, how can I get my stepkids to listen to me more? How can I get my stepkids to listen to me more? I don't have stepkids, so I'm speaking a little bit out of ignorance. So I'm going to probably default to you on this one, Kipp. But
yeah,
if I can just give one word on this, it would be, because it's the same with your kids, is they have to trust you. And if that's a requirement, then what is the prerequisite for trust? Like you and know you care about them.
Yeah, that's spot on. I use this triangle called the triangle of influence, right? And by the way, I think this principle is transcendent, right? Stepkids, kids, employees, anybody. And kind of goes back to the question earlier around politics and playing the game. And you start from the bottom of this triangle. At the very bottom is your mindset towards them. Because if you see your stepkids as these brats that you have to help raise and you don't like them, everything else that you stack on top of that is just going to be seen through. It's manipulation, it's lies, it's coercion, it's all yucky, right? So get present. Do you love them? Do you see them for the amazing humans they are? And you got to believe it. And then second, have a relationship with them. Spend time with them, invest time with them. Here's the part that often people overlook. Have a relationship with those of influence with them. Super hard to influence your teenage boy when his teenage buddies think you're a jerk. A lot easier when you're the cool dad as well. So have a relationship with those of influence. This is interesting from a parenting perspective, especially with stepkids. You and mom are fighting. You don't think that it affects your ability to influence the stepkids? Absolutely. You guys are inviting them to choose sides if you're not in a good relationship with mom. What were you going to say?
Or another one, I mean, I agree with that. Or another one is you talk poorly about their father and you have animosity towards their father. Who do you think they're going to pick?
Yeah, they're choosing sides. So you got to have a good relationship with everybody, right? That's in a position of influence. Past relationships. Second is you got to learn from them. What's going on in the world? What's important to them? In corporate America, I'll use the term, do you understand their needs, challenges, and goals? Do you know what they're dealing with? What their top stresses are? And then after all that, on the top of it is now you're in a position to coach and teach. But if you jump to coaching and teaching before doing those things, then you're going to coach because, well, he doesn't understand me. He doesn't know what's going on in my life. Yeah, that's why you learn first before you coach. You get the trust and the care through having an established relationship, and you do that really well by seeing them.
There's one other thing, too, I think that underpins a lot of this that I've seen a lot of men overlook, and that's consistency.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
do all that consistently. Yeah.
It's really easy in the moment to be like, oh, I need my kids to do something or my stepkids to do something. So I'm going to like take interest in them and like figure out what they're like. Sure.
Start my mad scramble manipulation campaign.
Totally. Or to do it for a little while and then you start getting what you want out of them, the performance that you're looking for, the influence that you'd like to have. And then you forget about doing all of these things on a consistent or regular basis. Or one thing I've even noticed with my kids is when there's strain in the relationship, I make the changes that I need to make, and then I get impatient. I'm like, well, I'm doing all the things. Like, I'm doing all the trifecta of influence. I'm caring about them. I'm learning from them. I'm investing in them. I'm investing. Bro, you've been doing it for a week. They've been mad at you for 2 years.
Yeah.
Or guys will say this in relationships. They're like, I'm never physically intimate with my wife.
I'm not getting
we've had
play.
strain in our relationship.
I opened the door yesterday.
Yeah. It's like, I don't understand. I took her out last night. I bought her some flowers. I'm like, dude, you've been a jerk for 3 years.
Yeah.
Let it work. It will, but you've got to let it work a little bit.
Yeah.
So have the fortitude to continually do what we're talking about doing.
And I think and coaching can come across as a withdrawal, right? I think it was Stephen Covey that used the example of an emotional bank account. So what deposits are you constantly putting in there and making sure that you have a surplus balance before you take anything out? So that might be a good way of looking at it.
It is. That one's always been interesting to me. I get and it's an analogy. It's not perfect, right? So I get it.
Still seems
sometimes
like manipulation.
It comes across. It's too transactional. Yeah. Because you'll even hear people. You need to have 7 good interactions for every one, and then what are you doing? Keeping score?
Yeah. Yeah, it's yucky.
Before you So again, it's just not perfect. Just take it for the spirit it's intended.
Totally, and that's why I like that influence triangle, because like at the bottom of it is not have a problem with them. Like let go. Yeah. And by the way, the upset that you have with them, it's more about you than them anyway. If you're honest with yourself, if you're truly self-aware, when I've had difficult teenage sons, like my son, that's a stepson, when he was difficult, you think my upset with him had to do with him? No. It had to do more about how he made me look. And most people won't want to admit that because it's like, no, it's what I want best for him. And they're like, okay, but you're emotionally charged as though it's an offense on you. Why? Because you feel it as an attack on your ego. You're afraid of your reputation. It's more, trust me, it's more than just wanting what's best for your kid. You've made it about you. And you need to clean that shit up so you can see them the way you should.
Well, and why you also have to ask yourself, why do you care so much about how others perceive you? Why are you worried about what your neighbor thinks of you and your family dynamic? Because maybe you're not doing what you need to do within the walls of your home.
Yeah.
And so instead of validating yourself, you're looking for other people to validate you. If we have this perfect ideal vision of what this is supposed to look like, then everybody will see, oh, Ryan's got this figured out.
Yeah. And if I have a wayward kid, I don't want to take accountability for that.
You're
anything I'm not doing as a parent. It's the kid it's his fault. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, we had some good questions today. Let's wrap it up, Kipp.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of calls to action. The Men's Forge is open. I know that's a year from now, but I'm assuming you're going to sell out fairly quick. So to look at that event, to learn more and to register, that's themensforge.com. Of course, you can connect with Michler on X and Instagram at Ryan Michler. And then I think overall, just orderofman.com for all things what's happening on the podcast. Blog posts get published up there, as well as when we're open for enrollment for the Iron Council, and many things that are happening within the community.
Yeah, we just put a new resource. Before I say what it is, I want to make sure it's up. Let me look here. Yeah, so if you go to orderofman.com/bookshelf, I've updated about 20 to 25 books that I think all men ought to consider reading. So the first segment is what we're currently reading. So that one's got Let Them by Mel Robbins. We've talked about The Man the Moment Demands, The Gap in the Gate, and Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. That's what I'm currently reading. But then we have the top 5 books on masculinity, top 5 books on self-mastery, top 5 books for fathers, top 5 on philosophy. So if you're looking for good books that I've read personally that I can give my little stamp of approval if you needed it, there it is right there.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
So that's orderofman.com/bookshelf.
Excellent. Okay.
All right, guys. Great questions today. Obviously, we always have more work to do on ourselves and our families and communities and the places that we're trying to serve. Don't burn yourself out like we talked about. I think that's one that really stood out to me today because I've been there and it's horrible. And I will say, by the way, when you take that little detox from self-help, you're not actually losing ground because I'm not telling you to be a lazy sack of crap. I'm telling you to do other things that are still good and still wholesome and recreational and fun and virtuous, but just a different pace or a different tempo. That's all I'm saying. And totally. I promise you, when you come back into that self-development space, you'll actually be better because you'll be well-rounded. You'll have new ideas and perspectives you hadn't considered before, and you'll just be a more enjoyable person. So that's what we've got for you guys. We'll be back on Friday. Until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.